the New Orleans Saints did have that preseason showing against the Kansas City Chiefs. They do come out, and honestly, they looked great. I loved to see Derek Carr on that first drive. The offensive rhythm so feels back. Saints scored on their first three offensive drives, 12 plays, 85 yards with Derek Carr on the opening drive. And damn, did it look so good to see a veteran back there. No more Jameis Winston, no more Ian Book, no more Taysom Hill, no more Trevor Siemian, no more Andy Dalton. That was hard as hell to watch. Who Dats, you already know what I'm talking about. Fans of the Who Dat Nation, Saints fans out there, you know how tough it was to watch Drew Brees get out of there, to watch Jameis have to come in. And yes, Jameis does go 5-2 before he gets hurt. And we can always sit here and wonder what if. And yes, when Derek Carr did get signed to the Saints, I didn't necessarily like the contract. I was a little hard on him about how he had his worst career. But Josh McDaniels had a horrible coaching job. And maybe it's not much better over here with Dennis Allen, as realistically, I might want him out of here after this season. But we'll see what happens. I love Derek Carr's first drive. The starters look great. The offensive rhythm, at least with the first team, guys, players, starters definitely looked great. Jameis Winston was solid with 11 of 13, almost 100 yards and a touchdown, led the second and third scoring drives of the day. I felt like he could have hit Taysom Hill on one of those blitzes that we had in the game, but he did well nonetheless, moving in those dirty pockets as the O-line really did let him down. Jake Haener completed 10 of 17 passes, 105 yards, one touchdown, one pick. He threw incomplete, though, on 4 out of 5 third down drives in the second half, which really led to the Saints offense stalling out and the Chiefs eventually being able to come back with a 24 unanswered and take the lead. Jake Haener, was eventually able to lead a touchdown drive that got the Saints within one score, which was really nice to see. We understand the story of Jake Haener. We know that when he came out of college, it was really because he was a Saints fan. He was at Fresno State, I believe, was it Fresno State? Did Derek Carr go to Fresno State? I can't remember nonetheless, but we know that some of his background and what he had been through and how he had played was a big reason why, Dennis Allen wanted to bring him in, why Dennis Allen actually wanted to draft him. He did play okay despite the interception. I felt like he threw the ball with a little bit of conviction, and you can kind of see that he has that confidence in himself. Some people are shitting on Jake Haener. Some people are praising Jake Haener. We know guys like Nick Underhill from New Orleans Football were really leaking out of training camp that he was looking great. People were really high on him. I still want Derek to be QB1. We all know that Derek is QB1. If Jameis does get the QB2 spot, great. I don't believe Jake Haener should really see the field like that. And, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I hope he doesn't due to any stipulation, especially not injury of the guys that are in front of him. Talk about some standout rookies and standout players from this game, though. Juwan Johnson with some nice catches. Michael Thomas had a nice snag from Derek Carr. Alvin Kamara looked great, running through the line. Jameis was solid again, 11 of 13, almost 100 yards, a touchdown, second and third scoring drives that he led of the day. I wanted to see more out of Brian Bresee and Isaiah Foskey. I'm really excited about the both of them. I feel like more Foskey than Bresee, but we'll see how things shake out as it goes through the year. And the involvement, I wanted it to be more, but of course it was preseason. It was week one. We saw Peyton Turner make some plays out there, which was good to see because really Peyton Turner is a bust in my opinion. Who Dats, get in the comments, let you know what we think. A.T. freaking Perry, as AFR Saints says, a thief in the freaking night. 6 targets, 6 catches, 70 yards, and a physical touchdown that Jameis Winston delivered to him. And you could tell that literally Jameis Winston's favorite target that day was A.T. Perry. He absolutely loved throwing it to him, no doubt. Now, the Saints O-line depth, we saw that as, the game got going on. It showed to be a little shallow once we got into the rotations. Jameis was dealing with a lot of dirty, muddy pockets, and this has to be a staple if you want to be anything like we used to be offensively. We know that as Saints fans, watching how Drew Brees, even if he was on the short throws and the timing in his career, the reason that the Saints were able to establish a run game with a 1-2 punch, have a prolific offense, was because of that staple of the offensive line. And we got to get more depth with that. I know Pete's trying to come back through, hated losing Teron Armstead to the Dolphins. We know Ramczyk is that guy there. And he's really the only one I trust the most out of, taking snaps from possibly any position, I guess, on that offensive line. Roby and Alontae Taylor, they got beat quite a bit. They got beat quite a bit in this game on the back end, and they're going to need to clean that up as well, no doubt. Ellis Merriweather, what a guy, what an interview. Seems like he can possibly just glide when he gets the football. He seems like he could be special. He's very, very talented, had some touches, but more than anything, just a great attitude. We love to see that out of him. Jamal Williams might have only had 9 carries for 28 yards, but he looked like the bell cow back and he was fighting for those damn yards, which is exactly what we need to have that punch with Alvin Kamara. Overall, the Saints in week one of the preseason, I was very pleased. And again, it goes back to that first drive with the starters. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, we're back to what we used to be. One drive, Super Bowl. No, absolutely not. We've lived through what the Saints have went through the last few seasons. And ultimately, it just feels so good to have a veteran back in there. I mean, when he slung that touchdown pass to Keith Kirkwood, just a little flick of the wrist, I was like, man, I miss seeing that. Like, it just didn't feel that natural for Trevor Siemian or Andy Dalton or, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, because it wasn't. And I'm not going out here saying Derek Carr is going to have, a 4,700-yard year and 38 touchdowns and 12 picks. No. But with the Saints winning 12 games this year, like I predicted, maybe 11 now that we're going to possibly drop the opener because Kamara is suspended, I still love what I saw from Derek Carr. And if that is any indication what he's going to be like in New Orleans, go ahead and bring it on. Go ahead and bring it on because I'm here for it. Now, again, I'm not trying to overreact, just looking at week one of the preseason. I want to talk about how Rashid Shaheed's injury impact could really fare out with this team. We saw last year Rashid Shaheed, undrafted, I want to say, um, you know, 2 touches, 2 touchdowns. Ends up with over 400 yards receiving on the year. We know that he can get in space. We know that he can be a playmaker, can be used in different types of positions. And with Derek Carr looking so smooth in the offense early on, knowing that Rashid Shaheed was one of our better weapons last year, I'd love to see him mesh well next to a Chris Olave. I'd love for Michael Thomas to stay healthy this entire year and make Rashid Shaheed that Traquan Smith, that Keith Kirkwood, that Tommy Lee Lewis, that we had in the past where they're just, slightly plugging in there, giving them dimes here and there. But he can easily be more than that. He can be a focal point of a set of an offense, or he can be a focal point of a drive if he needs to be, because he showed us he can be. I want the injury to be better for him, to be able to come back. I don't know the absolute latest on it, but I do know that he is, working through it. The Saints would definitely like to have him back for week one, as I do believe he is one of the better players